What's up, Star Wars nerds, and welcome to another episode of Brett on Fett. On today's episode, I've been gone a while, so it's time to play catch up on my channel. Plus, I got a very special vintage Kenner item I was able to find in the wild, so we'll take a look at that. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 112 of Brett on Fett, and it has been a while since I've put out a video on my channel, at least 3 or 4 weeks. I do apologize for not putting out any content over this time period, but it's just been extremely busy in my personal life. Work has been extremely busy, and I've also got very active kids with sporting events and that sort of thing, and so I just wasn't able to get the time in to put out a video. And frankly, I haven't really been getting many new Star Wars figures in the mail lately, so not a lot of new stuff to talk about until now. I did get that Farm Boy Luke pretty early, but after that there was a dry spell, and I'm just now starting to get in figures from the rest of that same wave, and I don't know when I will be getting the second wave. Now, a couple of topics before we move on to the featured items of this episode. One, I want to remind you guys about this year's icccon in Nashville, Tennessee. It's going to be May 16th through 18th, 2025. I'm going to be there, and I'm very excited to say I found out this past week that the folks at icccon have once again approved a press pass for me, so I will get to go there representing as part of the press. I'm really honored to once again be able to participate in icccon as a member of the press. As you guys know, my channel is very small. I'm just getting up towards 1,500 subscribers, and I'm just very thankful that Michael Havens and the rest of his staff at icccon are willing to give out press passes for smaller guys like myself. Now, icccon is going to have a great lineup. They're still announcing guests as we speak, but one of the bigger names they've announced so far is Warwick Davis. He was there last year, and he's coming again, and he was one of my favorite parts of icccon last year. So if you haven't met Warwick or gotten to see him live, you are in for a treat. And I'm sure they're going to have a lot more great guests. Last year, I got to meet Billy D. Williams. If you haven't seen the shorts video I put out of my autographed items I got from the grader, I was very excited to get a 90 grade on my Lando Calrissian signed by Billy D. And if you're thinking about attending, I actually have a coupon code for 10% off any admission ticket, including VIP. So if you're thinking about getting a VIP access pass, definitely use my coupon code, because 10% of the VIP tickets is quite a bit of money. And so when you go to buy your tickets, just use the code BrettFett10. That's BrettFett10, all one word, all caps, to get 10% off tickets to icccon, and I really hope to see you guys there. If you're planning on going to icccon, please let me know so I can look out for you, and I really hope to meet you. I met some of you last year. It was an awesome event. It's going to be awesome again, so I hope to see you there at icccon May 16th through 18th, 2025. Now, the other thing I wanted to remind you guys about is the Vintage Collection March Madness 2025, put on by the guys at swtvc every year, and they have finished compiling all the lists that people submitted to come up with the top 64 most wanted new TVC figures to create their March Madness bracket. And yesterday they hosted a live stream where they revealed all of their picks. Now, they haven't put together the final bracket graphic with all the picks, so I'm not going to share that with you at this time because I just don't have it. And I'm not going to list all 64 right now, but I just want to let you know you can go watch that live stream on their YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the description of this video to check out to see how many of the ones that made it were from your list. Now, I can tell you personally, I had 13 of my top 25 got selected for the March Madness bracket, and that's just over half of my picks, so I'll take that. That also included 8 of my top 10 got picked, so very happy about that. Now, most of the ones didn't get picked. Did not really surprise me. They were, kind of personal wants, a lot of Empire Strikes Back stuff, a lot of stuff that's been done in the past that just needs to be redone, such as the Bespin Luke and an Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett. So I wasn't surprised that those didn't make it. There were a couple of ones that surprised me. For example, I really thought the Patrol Trooper from Solo might make it because I've just seen so many people agree with me on that pick, and it just seems to be a popular one that hasn't been made yet. So very surprised that one didn't make it. I bet it made the top 100, but just didn't make the 64. And another one that surprised me is the Zombie Death Trooper from Ahsoka, but I'm guessing that didn't make it because a lot of people just think that that one is coming, and I kind of agree. I haven't heard any rumors about that one coming, but I'm pretty sure they will make it. I believe it's been leaked to be coming in the Black Series, so it's probably not too far behind for coming out with the Vintage Collection. So I kind of understand that one, although it was a bit of a surprise. So go check out that live stream at swtvc's YouTube channel, and then be on the lookout for the release of the bracket, and most importantly, be on the lookout for when it is time to submit your votes. It's going to be a bracket tournament style, so you'll have figure against figure, and it can be very tough. Sometimes you have two figures that you really want going up against each other, but that's part of the madness and it's part of the fun. So be on the lookout. Please participate in this event. It's not an official Hasbro event, but we know that Hasbro keeps a close eye on this thing, and it has a very good history of winning figures getting made. So pay attention, keep an eye out for when you can start voting and how to vote, and please participate. It's such an important event for the vintage collection community. All right, guys, so let's talk some pickups. Now, last weekend, I was out of town in Fort Worth, Texas, which is in North Texas, right next to Dallas, and they have an awesome store there called Holocron, which is purely dedicated to Star Wars toys. And I got a very special vintage item pickup from that store, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first, we've got some regular pickups that came in the mail. Just want to give you guys my thoughts on. Let's take a look. All right, before we get into my pickups from the Holocron store, I just want to go over some regular pickups that came in the mail. First up, I finally got the Anakin and the 501st Clone Trooper Lieutenant from that first Luke Skywalker wave. A lot of people are already starting to get the next wave that includes the Snowtrooper, whereas I'm still waiting on the Dedra Miro and the Jedi Master Indara figures from this first wave. But at least I got these two to look over. And let's take a look at the Anakin Skywalker. Of course, these are both from the Ahsoka flashback from the Clone Wars. And I'm not a fan of this card back. I don't know that they could have done a better job because it was a very smoky and dark scene. But just not a great film out in my opinion. It is VC 347. And I have to say, I also don't really care for this particular shade of green they've chosen for this figure. I just don't like it. And usually Hasbro does an excellent job of picking those color palettes. But for some reason, I am not feeling that green with this particular card back and figure. Now, switching over to the Clone Trooper figure, I really do like this card back. I like it way better in hand than I thought I would when it was revealed. This one works. The lighting from that film out is so much better. Now, the problem here, as you've probably already realized, is the name Clone Trooper Lieutenant. This is not a Lieutenant in the 501st. This is just a regular grunt Clone Trooper in the 501st. Lieutenants have the dots on the chest, and as far as I know, they're typically turquoise, and just the paint patterns are just different. Now, once again, I don't think Hasbro chose the right name pill color palette for this card back. It just doesn't seem to match very well, and it's just really odd to me because I almost always agree with the choices Hasbro makes on these, but something's just a little bit off with using that yellow. Other than that, it really is an awesome card back. I really love that film out. And here are the figures out of the packaging, and I have to say I love this Anakin Skywalker. This thing is awesome. They nailed it. He is fantastic. I love everything about how this figure was made. Great sculpt, and I love the use of two different soft goods for his comma. The boots look great, and the head sculpt is amazing. Might look a little bit too angelic, if that makes sense, but then again, this is peak good guy Anakin early in the Clone Wars, and so I think it's going to be a nice contrast from the Revenge of the Sith version we get for him. And I'm also digging this Phase 1 Clone Trooper. It is a repaint, but the helmet is swappable compared to the last one, which went over the head, and so it fits much better. It's not so wide. Now, one thing a lot of people may have a problem with is the blue on him is very glossy, and I actually think it looks really sweet, but I can see where a lot of fans would want it to be more of a matte. I think the Phase 2 501st we have is a more matte, and so it's not going to match with that. But still, I like the glossy. I just think it looks really sharp. Next, I picked up this Easter-themed R2-D2 from Droid Factory. Got this from the Disney store. Now, I am not into the holiday-themed Star Wars stuff, but my daughter really wanted this. She loves bunnies, and she likes R2-D2, so this just made sense. And it's called R2-BNE or R2 Bunny. Very cute. And so here's a look at the card back. My daughter did not want me to open this, so I won't be taking him out for you guys, but you can get a good look at him, and yeah, it's really cute. The paint apps were done very nicely, and so I am digging this, but this one is going in my daughter's collection. So if you are into the holiday themed Star Wars stuff, I would highly recommend picking this one up. It really seems like one of the better releases they've done. Alright, moving on to my Holocron visit. Now again, I was in Fort Worth, Texas this past weekend. I was there for a gymnastics competition for my daughter, and whenever I'm in Fort Worth or Dallas, I do try to drop by Holocron. This is an awesome store. Now, they do have another location in Austin, Texas. I have not been to that one yet. Now, I took this photo when I got there, but once I got inside, I got too excited and I completely forgot to take any photos. So the photos you're seeing now are from my previous trip to Holocron like a year ago. And so I just wanted to show those to you guys just to give you a feel for what it looks like inside. This is an awesome wall of vintage Kenner mint on card figures. I love the sign that clarifies the prices from 1977 on the figures is not the actual price. It's pretty awesome. Now, as I mentioned before, I got an absolutely incredible pickup from Holocron, but before we get to that, let's go through some of the other decent pickups I got, starting with a couple of TVC early 2.0 figures. I really wanted to get an extra of these two to open, and that is Cara Dune and Chirrut Imwe. They had a huge selection of older TVC 2.0, and they were selling them at amazing prices. Now, this Cara Dune was one of the more expensive ones, but that was at $20. I thought that was a great deal. I remember a time when Cara Dune was going for like $75, even $100. But they had a bunch of her for $20, and they had Chirrut Imwe for $14. I mean, that's like less than retail, or I guess it was retail at the time when it came out. And I only had one of this guy on card, so I wanted one just to open when hopefully we get more of the Rogue One crews coming out. I want to make sure I had an opener for Chirrut Imwe. So these are a couple of great pickups for my loose collection. Next, I picked up this vintage collection Luke Skywalker's Tauntaun. Now, the sad thing about me buying this is that I already had this Tauntaun a while ago. I bought this thing when it first came out back in like 2010, and back then I wasn't really collecting loose stuff, and I only bought this because I had a Hoth Battle diorama back then. That was the only stuff I had that was loose, was this Hoth diorama. But then when I got back into serious collecting in 2020, I was in a new house. I didn't have that Hoth diorama anymore, and I really wanted to focus on carded vintage collection. And so I got rid of a lot of stuff, and I sold this Tauntaun. But then a couple of years ago, I decided to start collecting loose stuff as well, and I've really gotten into the world building aspect of TVC. And so I just really wanted a Tauntaun again. I'm really making a push for more Empire Strikes Back stuff. And so they had this guy for sale for $50, including the box and everything. And it's a great beast. The articulation is awesome. You know, he's got the swivel head, which is fine, swivel arms, but the legs, the ankles has plenty of articulation. The tail is static, unfortunately, but the paint apps are good. The saddle looks good, and this thing is super steady. It's very well balanced. They weighted it very well. It does not fall over very easily. And you can see I'm just shoving Luke on there with no problem. He doesn't fall over at all. It's extremely stable. Probably could have done a better job posing Luke, but it is a very good beast. I highly recommend you picking up a Tauntaun if you can. I got this one for $50, and I think that's about an average price for a loose one on eBay. Now, this is not a recent pickup. This is in fact the first vintage Kenner mint on card figure I ever got. It is the 48 back C Bosk, and it is my pride and joy. I bought this ungraded, and when I turned it in, it came back as a CAS 85. It is awesome. I love this piece, and the reason I'm showing it is to explain that this was the nicest condition vintage Kenner mint on card figure I have ever owned until now. I have got that beat with something in even nicer condition, and it is this 41 back Imperial Commander. Now, for those of you that don't know, as far as vintage Kenner figures, I am focused on collecting all of the Empire Strikes Back characters from the line. Not all the variants, but just, one version of each character specific from Empire Strikes Back. And the Imperial Commander was one of the ones I've been looking for recently. And so I was going through that awesome wall of Kenner mint on carded figures at Holocron. They're hanging on pegs and clamshells. And I happened to come upon this one, and right away I could tell there was something special about the condition on this one. I really couldn't see any flaws, even through this kind of rather dirty old clamshell that they put it in. But I wanted to play it cool, and I took it up to the front to ask the owner, what's his best price on it. And it was at that time that the owner pointed out to me an old Kenner shipper box on display next to where they had the figures hanging. And he explained to me that they had acquired a sealed shipper box of 41 backs, which they opened, took the figures out, put them in clamshells, and put them up for sale. And this figure came from that sealed shipper box. It has never seen the light of day until the store took it out of the shipper box and put it up for sale. And my excitement when he told me that was through the roof. I was able to contain myself and kind of play it off like, oh yeah, that's interesting. Because I was waiting to get a best price from this guy and didn't want to reveal just how incredibly excited I was. In fact, I was so excited, I didn't even think to ask him more information about the shipper box, like what other figures came out of that box. Did they have others for sale? I only, closely looked at the figures that I was looking for. I did happen to notice they had an FX7 that was a 41 back that looked in near perfect condition as well. But I had just bought an FX7 off the latest Hakes auction, so I really wasn't interested in looking to buy another one, even though I knew this one they had in the store was much nicer. So I'm guessing that FX7 was also part of that shipper box, but I never asked the guy. Again, just way too excited, so my brain just kind of shut down. But he offered me an extremely fair price of $220. I jumped all over that. That is a very good deal for what is an immaculate figure. I mean, this thing is immaculate. It is nicer than most of the TVC figures I get in the mail. The card back is so nice. It only has a tiny little bit of edge wear in a couple of places. That's probably just edge wear from being in the shipper box. But aside from that, the card back is basically flawless. I mean, look at that hang tab. There is no wear around that thing. The blister is in perfect condition. Now here's the only other issue, is the tape is starting to come loose. The tape that holds the gun. That makes me a little bit nervous for when I ship this thing to get graded that might come off. But that's just something that can't be helped over time. The glue on that old tape just wears off, and so a lot of these have the guns, fall off and just be loose inside the blister, and that can actually affect the figure subscore. And so that's probably the biggest risk to this thing, not getting as high of a grade as it could otherwise, if that gun falls off during shipping. So that is a little bit of a risk. I won't say what kind of grade I think this figure will get because I don't want to jinx myself. I've done that before on this channel. But let's just say the odds of me getting a really good grade on this figure is high. It's very high. And although the Imperial Commander is not the most exciting figure in the line, I'm still very honored to be the first owner to have this carded figure outside of the shipper box, aside from the store itself. And so it's just really special to be able to get a hold of something like this. So I'm not going to send this right away for grading. I just missed CAS's free 30-day turnaround special. And I'm just going to take my time, enjoy this for what it is. I'll probably send it off maybe in a couple of months or so and it'll probably be gone for another 3 months or so after that. But I will definitely keep you guys posted once I get this back from the grader to let you know what it ended up getting. Alright, so that's going to do it for this episode of Brett on Fett. Let me know in the comments, what is the most special Star Wars item that you have picked up in the wild? Thanks for checking out this video. Thank you so much to my subscribers. Don't forget, you can also follow me on Instagram. Take care, and we'll see you next time.